If you've ever wondered about the process of taking a collection of neckties and turning them into a memory quilt, you are in the right place. My name is Holly Ann Knight of String and Story, and it is my job to guide you to quilt with confidence. Today, I am turning 180 neckties into a queen-sized memory quilt. Now, each of the Dresden plate blocks that I decided to make for my quilt was made up of 5 to 8 ties that I laid out exactly as you can see here. Now, when I first began this project, I did research making actual Dresden plates by deconstructing the ties and using a template to then recreate the block. But what I realized is that I would lose a lot of the design on the ties in this incredible collection. So instead, I decided to go for a Dresden adjacent effect. And I arranged each quarter Dresden as I've shown you, and then used my straight stitch sewing machine to applique the ties down. This required a lot less work on my part as far as deconstructing the ties and really helped preserve the fabric's integrity as well as the design on them. I stitched with Orifil 50 weight thread a quarter of an inch away from the edge of each tie in order to secure them to my Paintbrush Studio solid background. On each of these ties, I made sure to hold all the rest of the ties out of the way as I stitched, and I only stitched a part of the way up the neck of the tie. I stopped a few inches short of the corner of the block where all four parts of this Dresden were going to come together so that I could then go in and take out some of the excess bulk before actually attaching the blocks to each other. Here you can see how I actually removed that filler in the tie so that there'd be less bulk when I got to this next step and put all of the pieces of the block together. I then laid out 4 quarter Dresdens to a single block and added a 12-inch border top and bottom to bring this quilt top to a total of 84 by 108 inches. I quilted this big old quilt on my Handi Quilter Amara. I used Orifil 50 weight thread, I believe the color was dove gray, a nice, fresh, sharp needle, and my glide foot. As you can imagine, even with removing the filler from the ties where those blocks are going to come together, there's still a lot of bulk going on this project. So as I stitched this loopy meander, I wanted to make sure I used a foot that would go smoothly over the edge of the ties and be able to navigate that bulk with as few hitches as possible. As I was long arming, I made sure to slow down substantially towards the center of the blocks. Now, it's important to note that this particular video is actually at 4 times real speed, so I was quilting a lot slower than this in real life. By slowing down as I got to the bulkiest areas of the quilt, I was able to preserve my stitch quality, avoid thread breaks, and let that glide foot do its job. I was really impressed with how much bulk my Amara and this foot were able to handle, and it made quilting this project a lot easier than I expected. Once I had quilted the whole thing top to bottom, it was time to pull it off the frame and prepare for binding. I was really delighted at this stage to see how this huge collection had come together. I used a machine binding for durability for this project, and as I bound the quilt, I took some of the labels from the tags and tucked them into the back as a fun little memento. There were a lot of Disney ties in this collection, and it was really cool to see all the different types of Disney tie tags that I could tuck into the back edge. The final step of this big necktie memory quilt was to finish the centers of the Dresden plates. Now, I had done my Dresdens in 4 quarter blocks, as you'll remember, and where they came together and formed the middle of that asterisk shape looked pretty messy. I had one tie left that I knew was really special to the owner of this collection, and I had saved it for exactly this. I decided to do needle turn applique to cover this center section. So using Orifil 80 weight thread, I positioned these circles in the center and by hand stitched them down, tucking the edge under as I went. This was my first time doing needle turn applique, and it actually went pretty smoothly. I was really pleased with the professionalism that this added to the quilt and made the whole thing really come together and shine. All in all, I'm really delighted with how 180 ties became an incredible queen size quilt. And if you're thinking about making a necktie quilt of your own, don't forget to hit subscribe and head over to my blog for even more details.